part 2 of how to save the high street camera store. One of the biggest arguments I've heard is that, again, going back to the last video, talking about how if price is the issue, then everyone would just go to an internet shop because it's much cheaper there. And to a point where the Jessup staff, which I spoke to, they advised me that the company itself, actually lost money on every professional digital SLR camera which they sold. So in other words, they were selling a Nikon D3 and they were selling it for £3,600. They were actually losing about £150 per camera that they sold. What they made money on was the smaller items. So in other words, the memory cards, the batteries, the maybe lens accessories, the filters, the print sales, and other things in the shop. But in terms of actual having the big cameras being sold, they weren't making any money, and which is a bigger nightmare because they were still more expensive than some online shops. So they're losing money, and they weren't doing them any favors in terms of making them look like they were value for money, even though they were losing money while selling their gear. So one of the most obvious ways that high street stores can make money is through the sales of their peripherals, their smaller items, their add-ons. But the only way you're going to sell them is if you have customers coming in. And to get customers coming in, you have to be able to have the gear in store for people to want to use, play with, try out, or at least if they are trying out something like a Nikon D3, the sales staff in the shop can highly advise them, going, oh yes, it is a very good camera. However, here's another camera which is far more in a better price bracket for that customer and may potentially be better for a sale for the shop, and say, here's a better camera, and now you're saving all the money on that camera, you can buy a lens, here's a filter kit, here's some extra batteries, something like that. That way, the company is selling more stock and is potentially making money rather than selling a single item. But what is, they still have that single high value, high interest item in the shop for people to use and play with. But if you don't have anything in the shop which is freely available for people to come in and test and try, then you're not going to have people coming in to potentially see the other stuff which is in the shop. One of the best shops I've ever been to was one in Osaka in Japan called Yodobashi Kamera. It had a little store tune that went like that all the time. And it was brilliant because as a photographer I could go in and they had multiple lenses on a stall out in the middle of the shop that you could just go along and attach your camera to and have a feel around. And it wasn't quite walk around, it was on a string or a wire, but it fully worked. Many times I've been into Jessup shops or other shops in town where I think PC World has loads of point and shoot cameras, and all of them, half their batteries don't work. They've all got not even fingerprints, but you turn it on and it's all blurry because it's just got baby snot on the front of it. Nothing's been taken care of. That stuff has just been plonked in the shop, hoping that somebody comes in and plays with it. Or half of them have had a bolt put through them so somebody doesn't steal it, but at the same time the bolt has gone through the battery and it doesn't work whatsoever. So it's just like, what was the point of that? So many times you want to have stuff which I would say is out in the store for people to try and play with. And the fact is, if people know that it's there, then every lunchtime you'd have camera geeks coming along going, oh, I want to go and see what it feels like holding that 105mm macro lens again, see that, get used to the feel of the weight. They may not buy it there, they may not buy it then, but the fact is you'll have people coming into the store, and when they're in the store looks busier, but you've also got them kind of going, brilliant, oh, you do a printing service, I've got some pictures, I can go get it printed in here while I'm in my lunch hour. Instead of going, I don't know any camera shops, I'll just go print off Dropbox. But for many photographers, the worst thing is going into a store where, let's say, the new camera, the Fuji X-T1 has come out. It's a £1,000 SLR-like camera. And yet, if I go into my local shop, there's a box saying Fuji X-T1. It's in a glass cabinet. So for me to get into it, I would have to ask one of the sales staff. We would then have to unlock it, then I'd have to unbox it. But it's in a glass cabinet behind a sales staff who is standing behind a sales counter. So there's no kind of that relaxed feeling of just go in, have a look around, see what I like, have a play, do I like it? Oh, I do. oh, I really like it. Oh, wow, this is brilliant. Oh, I've got to buy this now. Brilliant. Hello, can I buy this? It's more the walk around, see nothing's out on the show for me to play with. Right, not feeling very comfortable in here, got to walk out. One of the biggest advice would be have stuff out on show, on display, and for people to play with batteries that work, and customer services where they can actually explain to anybody going, you know, how does this actually work? And instead of going, I don't know the menu settings for a Nikon camera because I just use Canon. That's going to be no use for a noob that's coming in. But what would be helpful is somebody saying, yes, here's a very good camera, here's one more in your price range with similar functions and better in certain things or whatnot. So that's where a physical store having sales staff can direct the people to more appropriate gear that they should be having, which may potentially create more profit for the shop as well.